Tom was an adventurous soul, a local hiker known for his love of the great outdoors. Every weekend, he would lace up his sturdy boots and venture into the vast wilderness surrounding his town, seeking solace in the beauty of nature, the towering trees, the gentle rustle of leaves, and the distant sounds of wildlife filled him with a sense of peace. Today, however, he had chosen a particularly rugged trail that twisted and turned through steep inclines and rocky outcrops. As Tom navigated the path, he felt exhilarated by the challenge. The sun filtered through the branches overhead, casting playful shadows on the ground. He relished these moments alone, far away from the noise of city life. But the wilderness was unpredictable. As he reached for a branch to steady himself, his foot slipped on loose gravel. In an instant, he lost his balance and tumbled down a steep incline, landing hard against a boulder. Pain shot through his leg, and panic surged as he realized he couldn't stand. The forest seemed to close in around him as he lay there, helpless and alone. Tom had always been cautious on his hikes, but this accident had left him vulnerable in a place where help was miles away. Little did he know that what would happen next would change everything, an encounter that would leave him stunned and redefine his understanding of nature's creatures. As Tom lay on the ground, the initial shock of his fall began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of urgency. He took a moment to assess his situation. His leg throbbed painfully, and he realized with dread that something was wrong. With a quick glance around, he noticed that it rolled down a small slope, surrounded by thick underbrush and towering trees. The world felt eerily quiet, save for the distant chirping of birds and the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. Tom attempted to push himself up, but sharp pain shot through his leg at the slightest movement. Panic coursed through him as he realized he was utterly alone, miles from civilization. His phone lay just out of reach. Its screen cracked from the fall, rendering it useless. He called out for help, his voice echoing in the stillness, but only silence responded. Time seemed to stretch as he sat there, grappling with fear and frustration. He thought about how unprepared he had been for this moment. No one knew where he was, and he had left no trail marker behind. Just when despair began to settle in, a sudden noise broke through the stillness. Tom turned his head slowly, heart racing at the sound of rustling in the bushes nearby. Little did he know that this unexpected sound would lead to an encounter that would astonish him and everyone who heard his story later on. As Tom lay there, his heart raced at the sound of the rustling bushes. He squinted through the dappled sunlight, and to his astonishment, a bear emerged from the underbrush. The animal was a striking sight, large and powerful, with thick fur that glistened under the sun. Tom's instinct was to panic, but he quickly reminded himself that bears were often just as curious as they were fearsome. The bear paused, its nose twitching as it sniffed the air. It seemed to sense Tom's distress. Its dark eyes focused intently on him. Rather than charging or displaying aggression, the bear took a cautious step forward, studying Tom with an air of curiosity. In that moment, Tom felt an unexpected connection with this wild creature. He lay still, trying to remain calm, hoping that his presence wouldn't provoke it. Tom's mind raced as he recalled stories of bears interacting with humans. Some encounters were terrifying, while others revealed their surprisingly gentle nature. He couldn't help but wonder what this bear would do next. Would it see him as a threat or something else entirely? The encounter felt surreal, almost like a scene from a movie. As the bear slowly approached, Tom held his breath. He could only hope that this unexpected visitor would not escalate into a dangerous situation. Instead of feeling fear, he felt a strange sense of awe wash over him as he awaited what would unfold between them in this extraordinary moment deep in the wilderness. Tom's heart raced as the bear drew closer, its curiosity evident in the way it moved. Desperation began to set in, blending with an instinctive fear. He knew he was in a vulnerable position, and the last thing he wanted was to provoke the creature. With his leg throbbing painfully, he focused on staying calm, using every ounce of willpower to keep his breathing steady. "Please, just go away," he whispered, though deep down he understood that speaking might not make any difference to the bear. He tried to make himself appear smaller and less threatening, gently raising his hands in a gesture of peace. To his surprise, the bear seemed to pause and observe him more intently, its head tilting slightly as if trying to understand the strange human lying helplessly on the ground. Tom noticed something remarkable in the bear's expression. It was not one of aggression, but rather an inquisitive concern. The animal sniffed the air again, taking hesitant steps closer, its large paws silently padding through the leaves. Tom felt a strained connection forming between them, something beyond fear and survival. The bear's apparent empathy was unexpected. Instead of retreating into the shadows or charging at him, it lingered nearby, watching him closely. In that moment, Tom realized that perhaps this encounter could lead to something different than he had anticipated. The wilderness had a way of surprising people, and little did Tom know that this encounter would soon take a remarkable turn that would leave both him and everyone else stunned. As Tom lay there, an unexpected bond began to form between him and the bear. The initial fear that gripped him gradually gave way to a surprising sense of calm. He couldn't help but marvel at the creature's gentle curiosity, which contrasted sharply with the stereotype of ferocious wildlife. The bear continued to regard him intently, its dark eyes reflecting a deep intelligence that Tom had never associated with wild animals. Tom found himself softly speaking to the bear, sharing his thoughts aloud, as if it could understand him. "I know I must look pretty silly right now," he chuckled nervously, acknowledging his vulnerable position. "But I really need some help." To his astonishment, the bear seemed to respond, tilting its head further as if processing his words. In that moment, Tom felt an inexplicable connection. It was as if time had stopped, allowing them both to exist in this shared space without fear or hostility. The bear's presence was oddly comforting, and he realized he was no longer just a man in distress. He was part of a larger story unfolding in the heart of nature. Suddenly, the bear took a tentative step closer, sniffing at Tom's backpack that lay discarded nearby. It nudged it gently with his nose, as if trying to ascertain whether there was something inside that could help. In that innocent gesture, Tom felt a spark of hope ignite within him. Perhaps this bear wasn't just a wild animal. Perhaps it could sense his need for assistance and might play a role in his rescue after all. As the bear continued to investigate Tom's backpack, he watched in awe, feeling a mix of disbelief and hope. The bear nudged the pack with its snout, causing it to shift slightly. With a sudden burst of determination, the bear began to paw at the bag, unearthing various items that Tom had packed for a hike. It seemed as though the creature was genuinely trying to help. Tom's heart raced as he recalled the first aid kit stashed away inside. "If only you could find that," he exclaimed softly, half laughing at the absurdity of talking to a bear. To his amazement, the bear paused, seemingly processing his words. After a moment, it pulled out a water bottle, dropping it clumsily beside Tom before returning its focus to the backpack. Then, with surprising dexterity, the bear managed to dig deeper and finally unearthed the first aid kit. It nudged it toward Tom with its nose, as if presenting him with a precious gift. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Tom couldn't believe what was happening. A wild bear was assisting him in his time of need. With shaking hands, he reached for the first aid kit. The bear watched closely, its eyes locked onto Tom's every move. As he opened it and fumbled through supplies for bandages and antiseptic wipes, he realized this extraordinary encounter was not just about survival, but also about an unexpected friendship forged in a moment of crisis. This bear had shown compassion beyond what anyone could have imagined, leaving Tom stunned at nature's remarkable capacity for connection. As Tom tended to his injury, applying bandages with the bear watching intently, he felt a surge of hope. The bear had offered him more than just assistance. It had provided a sense of companionship in his moment of despair. However, time was still against him, and he knew he needed to get back to safety. Just as he began to think of ways to signal for help, the sound of voices echoed through the trees. "Tom, can you hear us?" The familiar voices of his friends, who had been searching for him, pierced the stillness of the forest. Relief washed over him, mingling with anxiety as he realized they might stumble upon this incredible scene, him bandaging his leg with a bear nearby. In that moment, the bear seemed to sense the commotion. Its ears perked up, and it glanced back toward the source of the noise. Tom held his breath, unsure how the bear would react to the arrival of humans. Would it flee or stay? To his astonishment, The bear took a few steps back, not out of fear, but rather a curious retreat. As Tom's friends emerged from the underbrush, their eyes widened in disbelief at the sight before them. A man sitting on the ground with Bear hovering nearby. "What on earth is happening here?" one of them exclaimed. Tom chuckled weakly, knowing that they would never believe his story without witnessing it themselves. The tension in the air dissipated as the bear slowly backed away into the trees, leaving behind an unforgettable memory and a profound lesson about compassion in nature. Tom's friends rushed to his side, ready to help him get back on his feet, but he knew this experience would resonate far beyond their immediate concern for safety. As Tom's friends helped him to his feet, the reality of what had just unfolded began to sink in. They exchanged astonished glances, their minds racing to process the encounter with the bear. Tom, still feeling the weight of the experience, took a deep breath and reflected on the unexpected bond he had formed with this wild animal. In that moment, he realized that the bear had not only assisted him in a time of need, but had also opened a window into a profound lesson about coexistence. The wilderness was not merely a backdrop for adventure. It was a living ecosystem filled with creatures that shared the same space and resources. This bear had shown that even amidst danger, there could be moments of understanding and connection. Tom began to share his thoughts with his friends as they carefully made their way back along the trail. He spoke of how easy it was to view wildlife as threats rather than fellow inhabitants of the earth. "We often forget," he said, "that we are intruding on their home. Today showed me that if we approach nature with respect and empathy, we can coexist peacefully." His friends nodded in agreement, inspired by Tom's insights. The laughter and chatter resumed as they continued their hike, but now there was a shared commitment to being more mindful of the environment around them. They understood that every interaction with nature held potential lessons about compassion and respect. Lessons that could transform fear into appreciation and ultimately foster a deeper connection between humans and wildlife. In the days that followed the accident, Tom found himself reflecting deeply on his extraordinary encounter with the bear. As he recuperated from his injuries, he replayed the events over and over in his mind. What had started as a typical hiking trip had transformed into an unforgettable experience that challenged everything he thought he knew about wildlife. Tom began to share his story with friends and family, recounting the bear's unexpected kindness and the profound connection they had formed in such a dire moment. He realized that many people held a fear of wild animals, often seeing them as threats rather than creatures deserving of respect and understanding. His narrative sparked conversations about coexistence, and soon others were inspired to rethink their views on nature. As he healed, Tom also took steps toward becoming more involved in wildlife conservation efforts. He volunteered at local organizations dedicated to educating the public about the importance of respecting natural habitats and promoting safe interactions with wildlife. Tom felt a renewed sense of purpose, driven by the belief that sharing his experience could foster a greater appreciation for nature's complexities. Each time he ventured back into the woods, he carried with him a newfound awareness. The wilderness was no longer just a playground. It was a shared home for both humans and animals. Tom's heart swelled with gratitude for that bear and the lesson it had imparted, one that would resonate throughout his life, reminding him of the delicate balance between humanity and the wild. As Tom's journey of recovery and reflection unfolded, he began to grasp the larger implications of his experience with the bear. What had started as a harrowing accident evolved into a profound narrative about empathy, connection, and the intricate web of life that exists within our natural world. This encounter served as a striking reminder that interactions between humans and wildlife can lead to remarkable moments of understanding, even in the face of adversity. Tom recognized that many people share the same fears he once held about wild animals. He realized that fostering a sense of respect and appreciation for wildlife is essential for promoting coexistence. By sharing his story, he hoped to inspire others to approach nature with curiosity rather than dread, to see animals not as threats but as fellow inhabitants of the earth deserving of compassion. The wider implications of Tom's experience also extended to conversations about conservation and environmental stewardship. He understood that protecting natural habitats was crucial for ensuring that future generations could witness such extraordinary connections with wildlife. By advocating for responsible outdoor practices and supporting conservation efforts, Tom aimed to contribute to a world where humans and animals could thrive side by side. In conclusion, Tom's accident was a catalyst for change, not just in his own life, but potentially in the lives of many others. His story became a beacon of hope, illustrating how unexpected encounters with nature can enlighten our perspectives, encourage empathy, and ultimately lead to a deeper understanding of our shared responsibility to care for the planet and its diverse inhabitants.